Welcome to another edition of 805 Sports Talk. We got the whole crew in the office today, and we're going to get it started with the big story, and pretty much the talk of the town has been Santa Maria baseball. The Saints have advanced to the quarterfinals of the Division 6 playoffs. They're not the only team in town in the quarterfinals, as Righetti has advanced there as well. But the Warriors made it last year, and it's been a long time since the Saints have advanced this far to the playoffs. Kenny, you and I were at Tuesday's game when the Saints beat Foothill Tech. We saw quite a good contest. Paulie Navarro was dynamite on the mound for the Saints, and they held on for a 4-2 victory. So we got some highlights from that, and I talked to Navarro afterwards.
Tuesday's game against Foothill Tech was quite the wild ride. Santa Maria started its day at the plate with Isaiah Garcia launching a ball to deep center. Looked like he might get a triple, but Garcia was thrown out, or at least called out, at third. Breaking down the play frame by frame, it does look like Garcia may have got his hand in before the tag arrived. The Saints were able to get two more runners on in that first inning. With runners at first and second, Slim Lopez hit a hard comebacker to the pitcher, Del Starr of Foothill Tech, but Starr was able to regroup and fire to first for the out to end the first inning. However, with the way Paulie Navarro was throwing on the mound, he didn't need too much run support. Navarro had 12 strikeouts in the game. Here's one of them. Santa Maria's defense wasn't half bad either. Here, Trevor Garcia starts a 6-4 double play that ended the third inning. It looked like that defensive play may have sparked the Saints' offense as Isaiah Garcia led off the fourth inning with a double to left field. That brought Navarro to the plate, and it looked like the Saints senior pitcher would help his own cause as he lofted a single to shallow center field. Garcia rounded third and looked to be heading for home, but he was thrown out at the plate, and the game remained scoreless. But Slim Lopez would change that.
A two, hold it!
Trevor Garcia then added to the Saints' lead. He hit a sharp grounder to third base. The fielder couldn't handle it, and that brought in J.J. Pantoja for the Saints' second run. Foothill Tech then scored to make the score 2-1, and J.J. Pantoja added to the Saints' lead with a nice squeeze bunt, bringing in another Santa Maria run. Boogie Rodriguez then capped Santa Maria's scoring with an RBI single to right field, plating Angel Esparza, making the score 4-1. Navarro threw a complete game. Here, Bobby Ruiz, playing third base for the injured Mark Estrada, made a nice catch for the first out in the seventh inning. After an error, Navarro then got a strikeout with a runner on first base. Foothill Tech did tighten things up, though, with an RBI single with one out in the seventh, making the score 4-2. Finally, Navarro closed it out with one last strikeout, and the Saints win 4-2 and will play at home in the quarterfinals on Friday.
Get in here!
I mean, I just try to hit my spots, like I just said, and whatever they do, I just try to let my defense do the work, just hit my spots.
Yeah, you're a senior. What's it mean to see this team come together and make a playoff run like you guys are doing? You guys are in the quarterfinals. This program hasn't been in the playoffs in like 20-something years, almost 30 years. How's it feel to be a senior and see this team play?
I mean, it feels great being a senior, playing with these kids, It just feels great. Let's just keep it going,
Yeah, you guys got a quarterfinal game. I think it's going to be on Friday and at home. What do you want to say to people around the area? Come check out some Santa Maria baseball. Do you feel that community support? I think the people really rally around this high school when you guys do well in the playoffs. What do you want to say to anybody who might want to come out and support you guys?
I just want to say, just come support us, come support your Saints, and let's just get it.
So, Kenny, we were kind of joking earlier in the season about how you were somewhat of a bad luck charm for the Saints. I think they had a pretty bad record with you in attendance covering their games, but they seem to have shaken that a little bit recently.
Yes, I'd like to congratulate them just on that. They actually have a 2-game winning streak with the handicap of me covering them. I thought they were pretty well matched with Foothill Tech. They seemed like two fairly evenly matched teams. Santa Maria's defense was a bit better than Foothill Tech's. I think that helped them. Paul Navarro really did have a clutch performance on the mound. As you said, if he was down to his last batter with the mandated 110 pitch count limit, and with the potential tying run on base, he struck them out to win the game. Both pitchers did some clutch pitching with men on base. Oh, it was a good win all around for the Saints. They had a couple of tough close calls against them on the bases that took away a potential run and took away a potential triple, but they came through all that. So they gave it a solid effort. They played pretty well, I thought.
Yeah, I've been impressed with the team. I think Navarro's been great. But that defense has been solid as well. Trevor Garcia playing short. He impresses me. He's kind of a bigger shortstop, but he's agile. He made some nice plays in the hole. He has a good arm. Slim Lopez is a good middle infielder as well. They turned a real nice double play on Tuesday. I think if they can consistently continue to play that defense, they're going to be strong. And they didn't have Marcus Strada on Tuesday. They had Bobby Ruiz over at third base, and he filled in just fine. He had a late error that didn't end up costing them too much, but he also made a really nice play there in the 7th inning. So that defense has been good, but you mentioned the base running, and that's where I think they got to kind of get that figured out. Isaiah Garcia was thrown out twice on Tuesday, trying to stretch a double into a triple, thrown out at third. That was a close play, and then he was thrown out at home. So they got to get that figured out a little bit. But I have been impressed with Ricky Bear, the first-year coach for the Saints. This is his first season, and he's got these guys in the quarterfinals. He's managed the pitching okay. He still has a little bit of a streak of, kind of learning on the fly a little bit, but he's handled this whole thing very nicely, helping these Saints get to the quarterfinals. So overall, it's been real impressive, and I think they have a chance to win on Friday. They're playing at home again, and I think they can keep this going, but they got to shore up a couple things there. The defense has been good. The pitching's been great. The base running can be a lot of room for improvement there, but they're definitely going to be in for a challenge on Friday against Big Bear. But they've showed that they definitely belong in Division 6, and they're one of the last teams standing in the area. But we still do have one more team in Righetti hosting a quarterfinal game. We saw the Warriors win at Charter Oak. They've played a lot of close games. Kenny, you've had a chance to see them somewhat this year. Are you surprised that the Warriors are able to win these close games in the playoffs? Were you surprised to make them get to the quarterfinals again? I'm not. I don't think many people would be surprised as the number 2 seed.
They were rated number 2.
Do you think it's been a little closer than they would have expected so far? How do you think Righetti's done with 2 wins?
I think their pitching Righetti's pitching is just as good as it was last year. I think the reason for the close games is they've run up against better pitching in the early rounds. I think they pretty much breezed through the early rounds last year. I think the pitching wasn't as good that they faced last year. They ran up against good pitchers the first 2 rounds. Righetti's pitching has been just as good as it was last year. I think Matt Sauer's ERA is a little over 1. And I think all of their ERAs are under 3.5. So it's a solid pitching staff, and Alex Castellanos is unbeaten. He's 10-0.
I'm glad you mentioned him because he was huge on Tuesday. Brian Tomoka has done a good job managing that pitching staff as well. Starts Sauer in both games, but Sauer just goes 3 innings on Tuesday. Castellanos comes in, closes it down. They each allowed 1 run, and Righetti wins 3-2. So, good pitching management there. I'm assuming both guys will be available for Friday's game, and they'll have Mitchell Bagby as well. So, the pitching staffs for both Santa Maria and Righetti shape up nicely. I expect Trevor Garcia to throw for Santa Maria on Friday. He's been really good. He was good against Dunn, although he did give up 3 solo home runs. He really limited the damage last week. So both coaches over there, Santa Maria and Righetti, have been able to kind of manage their pitching staffs. But there are some other things going on in the playoffs. Sandy Inez is still around. But, coming to you, Lorenzo, what's kind of been your biggest surprise so far in the playoffs? I know Lompoc went down to AG. You know, they're in a tougher division on the softball side. Lompoc's baseball season ended. What's been the biggest surprise for you so far in these playoffs?
Well, going to softball in Santa Ynez, I mean, I know we're going to have this discussion in the later weeks, but I think Denisha Gills and the job she's done with the Santa Ynez softball program, she definitely deserves some Coach of the Year consideration. I mean,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I saw that Santa Ynez softball, it was really a moribund program. I mean, it was dead in the water, but Gills has really brought new life into that program. And consider this, they actually have 5 freshmen and 3 sophomores on that 12-player roster. So realistically, it's a JV team, and she's making this team just go deep into the playoffs. They have a huge home playoff game tomorrow, and I mean, I can't think of the last time that Santa Ynez softball has hosted a playoff game in these playoffs.
One of their freshmen is their starting pitcher,
Exactly.
Hermione Garcia, and her older sister's the first baseman. She's a senior, Anastasia. They've been, and Santa Maria baseball, they've been the 2 surprises for me. It's always a delightful surprise to see Santa Maria do so well. And Santa Ynez, though, they was last year, the year before,
were winless last year.
Yeah, they didn't win a single game. And then they get this freshman, and we've both met her. Armani Garcia is not, going to come at you like, Kurt Schilling. She's a little girl, but she's just got a lot of skill from that pitcher's position, and she can hit. And Santa Ynez has both teams in the quarterfinals. The baseball team, Warren Dickey's guys, are usually pretty good, so they're not a surprise. But the softball program, and I've talked to Denisha just about every game they've played this year, and she just has done a really good job coaching these kids up.
And I think another thing too is that not only were they winless last year, but they were winless in the previous year from what I saw as well. So they snapped that 38-game losing streak in the season opener against St. Joseph. But I think another credit goes to the Santa Ynez administration for allowing to work with Gills during this time and believing in the vision that she had instilled. I mean, in just 3 years, you have a team that's making a deep run into the Division 7 playoffs. Quite possibly might even be the team that comes out with the CIF crown.
Yeah, and I think it shows where these new re-leaguing or re-ranking the divisions and stuff that the CIF did, kind of based on the competitiveness of the teams, kind of pays off. If you can kind of, strike quickly and improve your program in a hurry, you have a chance to make a deep run in the playoffs. So Santa Ynez, going winless, they're in Division 7, which is the lowest softball division, and they're the number 2 seed. So they're a strong team in that division. If they hadn't been that, they would be with the other LPL teams probably up in Division 5 or something like that. But here they are in Division 7, which is a good fit for them, with them, going winless for pretty much 2 years before the season. So that helps. It also kind of helps Santa Maria as well, being in Division 6. I think that's perfectly where they should be this year. Watching some of the competition, Tuesday's game against Foothill Tech, they definitely matched up nicely. So Santa Maria was in a good division. So it's good to see the CIF get it right here during the spring sports season, where a lot of teams are in their proper divisions. So I think that's kind of helping teams like Santa Maria baseball and Santa Ynez softball this year, make runs in the playoffs. If they're in Division 5, it'd be probably a lot more difficult. We saw Santa Ynez baseball's in Division 4. They win a tough one on Friday, and then they lose to Wilson in 9 innings on Tuesday, 1-0. And they won a Division 5 championship. So it's a little more difficult for them on the Santa Ynez baseball side, but you see other teams that are right where they should be, and Santa Maria baseball is on the verge of making the semifinals, and then we see the same thing with Santa Ynez softball. So I like that the CIF re-ranking, re-divisioning stuff is kind of paying off for a lot of programs, so that's good to see. Kind of sticking with the Santa Ynez vibe, Lorenzo, you're the recruiting guru for us over here. So there's been some developments over in Santa Ynez, and then some news with Lompoc's star player. Can you kind of fill us in what's going on with the recruiting?
Gabe Pendergrass went from being that high school football prospect who was on pins and needles, wondering who's going to offer me. He's now at 2 offers. Just recently landed a University of San Diego offer now. The thing about USD's offers is, I'm sure you guys know, it's not an athletic scholarship. It's more of an academic full ride, and Pendergrass mentioned that there is a financial aid package that is included in this offer, but I mean, he can actually now rest easy, him, his family, even Coach Josh McClure, because he was really pushing Pendergrass out in front of college coaches. Now they can rest easy knowing that he's on the national radar. And Fresno State, our alma mater, actually visited Pendergrass last Friday during that playoff game as San Ynez. Tawa, his situation is he visited Cal. Cal, from what I understand, is really high on him as a safety. Now, Colorado, though, is now in the mix. Just recently offered him about 3 days ago. And Colorado's an interesting player now because, I mean, from what it looks like in the Mike McIntyre era, they're really putting a big emphasis on landing those California kids. I know Colorado teams in the past would emphasize Texas or whatever was in their backyard, but now with McIntyre and also Darren Shiverini, who's one of the main recruiting guys on that staff, they're putting a big emphasis on going after these California kids, and now they have Tawa in the mix.
Yeah, I think that's probably maybe a big, consequence of them being in the Pac-12 now, that, you're going to be playing more on the West Coast where they were in the Big 12 before. They probably would stick in the Midwest, but now in the Pac-12, they're going to kind of attack California a little bit. And looking at Tawa, is he mainly, are these Cal and Colorado giving him a chance to, maybe try something out on the offensive side, or is he mainly a defensive guy? Where do those kind of schools see him playing?
A lot of projections believe that because of Tawa's size, he's probably going to have to stick to safety. I mean, there's no telling how much bigger that he's going to get, and eventually if he might actually move over to linebacker, but you might be looking at a 215, 220-pound linebacker. As far as him playing running back, he might have to make the move to fullback, and we know that position's a dinosaur, but yet we've seen this guy run the football. I mean, it's a joy to watch, especially if you're into that old school throwback smashing style that Tawa brings to the table. But, it sounds more and more like the Pac-12 might be in Tawa's calling, kind of like how it was with his older brother Anu.
Yeah, we were kind of waiting for those Pac-12 offers to come rushing in. I know Washington State was early, but it's definitely seemed like those Pac-12 offers have finally came in, and it seemed like he was really excited to be at Cal on that visit. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of step up and you get real close to landing him. There's still a long way to go before he decides. I think we will have the early signing period this year. But, Cal's kind of moved up, and it would be fun to see him kind of stick in California and play up there. And then I knew he's going to be at UCLA probably, so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays
I have to
out.
wonder what the Tawa household is going to be like when you have a brother at UCLA, potentially a brother at a different Pac-12 school.
Moving on to track and field, Kenny. Over the weekend, you saw the CIF Southern Section track finals at Cerritos College. Who were some of the big performers that you want to mention, and were there any letdowns over there? How would you kind of sum up what you saw Saturday?
It was a mixed results day for the locals. Haley Batty in the girls Division III long jump. She's a Cabrillo senior, and Garrett Morgan, who is a Napomo senior, were favored to win. They did win. Garrett won in the boys 800. Haley qualified for the Masters meet. I know when I was at the meet, someone said, "Well, she was supposed to win." Well, I've seen favorites foul out before in that situation, and she jumped 18.7.5. I think she considered that a fairly pedestrian jump by her standards, but she was very happy to win the medal, and she's going on to the Masters meet, and she is seeded third. So she has, I think, at least on paper, a decent chance of qualifying for the state meet. And unfortunately, Joseph Dominguez, he is only a sophomore from St. Joseph. He was the top qualifier. He finished seventh, just didn't have a good race. I think perhaps the heat got to him. It was 94 degrees there, but he made the same move he did at 500 meters as he did at the prelims. This time it just didn't work out for him. But I think he'll be heard from again. He's only a sophomore. So.
All right, that's track, and as we approach June, it's the rodeo season, and Elliott, that's your time to shine. You love the rodeo. It's going to be a big weekend for you once the rodeo starts. Can you kind of fill us in where we're at? We got some nice events starting early in the week. Before the rodeo begins, we got clown school, stuff like that, and then the actual competition, gets started on Thursday. What's going down with the rodeo right now?
The rodeo is going to begin with something different this year, the Wranglers Champions Challenge. And that is unique, and I'll talk about it in a second. But first I want to mention Clown School is coming up Tuesday. I'm going to go. Our executive producer, Jason Anderson, went with me last year, and it was too rigorous for him, learning how to get in and out of the clown barrel. So he's not going this year, but I'll get that story Tuesday night for Wednesday's times. And then really the action begins Thursday with the annual Minetti Mini Rodeo. The kids are out there practicing. The finalists have been chosen. And that kicks off all the action. But then Thursday night, it'll be the first time they've had the Wrangler Champions Challenge here in Santa Maria. Now that's unique. There are 11 teams, so not just like team roping is 2 people. These are full teams with competitors for each event. So tie-down roper, 2 people for team roping, steer wrestling, saddle bronc, bull riding, and bareback riding, and barrel racing will all make up a team. There will be 11 elite teams of PRCA and NFR champions competing, and one of those 11 teams is the Santa Maria Elks team. Now this is a prestigious event for the Elks to be hosting. This is competed at 7 rodeos nationally through the year for championship points and money. And Santa Maria is now one of those 7 rodeos, and it's going to bring into town. We usually have a really good cast of characters, but now we're going to have a whole bunch of champions guaranteed because they'll be there the first night. And they just had the draw. They had a draft, just like the NBA draft or the NFL draft. They had a draft. And the Santa Maria team is going to be led by Jesse Wright. Now, he's a 2012 world champion saddle bronc rider, one of the many Wright brothers. And now, because they're getting a little bit older, Wright fathers. So Jesse's got a twin brother, Jake. He's got another brother, Cody, who's going to be one of the competitors. And Cody has 2 sons that are on the road. They're teenagers. And Ryder Wright will be one of the competitors. His brother, Rusty Wright, will not be in the challenge. But if you're a fan of rodeo, you've got to be a fan of the Wrights from Utah. They are really one of the dominant people. And Coburn Bradshaw, who is sort of a Wright, he's married to one of the Wright sisters. So they'll be leading. Jesse Wright will be leading the Santa Maria Elks team in the Champions Challenge. Jake Brown will be their bareback rider. They have Josh Peak as their steer wrestler. Now Luke Branquino, the 5-time world champ from Los Alamos, wasn't eligible for it because he didn't compete a full year last year on the PRCA circuit. He'll be at the rodeo, but he won't be part of this. You're going to have people like the 2016 World Steer Wrestling Champion Tyler Wagerspack, and there'll be Sage Kimsey, a world champion bull rider. So it's a star-studded lineup to kick it off. And then, of course, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you've got your 3 days of the PRCA and WPRA, Women's Professional Rodeo Association rodeo, and the Queen will be crowned on Friday night. And, of course, they've got all the activities, the Silver Dollar Coin Dig for kids, Camp Buckaroo, stick horse racing. There's the Western Marketplace. There'll be a special dinner honoring young cancer victims who are battling, or some have beaten cancer, for Cowboys Kicking Cancer. And Saturday night will be Tough Enough to Wear Pink night for so if you're going Saturday night, wear pink. I have my pink shirt already. And that's, by the way, brought to you by the Elks Rodeo, but also the Agan family, and they're extreme bronc riders from San Ynez, Los Olivos, and that's a crazy sport. If nothing else, you got to come out and see that. There'll be concerts, and one of everybody's favorites is Juan Carlos is coming back. Now, Juan Carlos, for those of you who haven't been to the rodeo, is the world's only bullfighting sombrero. He's a great act. They have the flying bull jumpers that are going to be there, and the flying U motorcycle guys. But everybody likes Juan Carlos the best. He has his own Facebook page. He's got T-shirts you can get. And what he is he's a little motorized 4-wheeler that wears a sombrero, and he goes out there and he challenges the bulls. And if you were here last year at all, one of the bulls stomped on him pretty good. And I talked to Reno Rosser, who the man behind Juan Carlos, and I guess he was injured in a recent rodeo, and Reno told me he spent a week in the hospital recovering. It must have been the remote, four-wheeler hospital, but Juan Carlos will be back. So it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of events going on all next week. We'll start it with our participation with the clown school on Tuesday, and then it's open. The mini rodeo is going to have 6,000 school kids at it, and then the rest of them are open to the public, and it's a great weekend here, and there'll be 25,000 people showing up over the course of the 4-day weekend. And if this Wrangler team challenge is as big as they're expecting, it could be even more people showing up. So it's a big deal. And of course, there's the rodeo parade. I was just talking about the sports part of it and the arena part of it, but Saturday morning, the annual rodeo parade. So it's a big week. And you're right, I'll be at all of it, although I think I'm dragging Kenny along for Saturday nights, because I have a couple other commitments at the rodeo that night. And I will be there for every performance, but I think Kenny might help me out on covering it Saturday night. But we'll be there for all of the action.
That's right. So the rest of this week, baseball, softball playoffs, some big games, and we're going to bring you all the coverage you can want from that. And then next week, rodeo. Who knows, maybe we'll even have some championship baseball, softball games to cover. So I know the school year's almost over, but it's not over for us, as we got a lot of good coverage for you guys planned. And once again, thank you guys for tuning in for 805 Sports Talk.